with us.
Oh, yeah.
Woo! Good morning. Michael and Israel here once again for another Tech Tuesday. Got kind of a crazy background. We're actually building out, what do we call it? Like a
Media room.
Media room. Ooh. So we gotta have the like techie background on this one. Yeah, hopefully this kind of makes her sound better. And don't worry, we're still going to go put pretty beautiful boats in the background. Guys, let us know how the audio is. Make sure we're working and make sure that you get your questions in. If you are watching this in one of the groups, like a post that I've shared, if you got a question, comment it in the actual video. So that we can see it. If you comment on the post, if that makes sense, those comments won't get pulled in. So you got to click right into the actual video and comment on the video, and that's what we get to see. So,
hey guys, got Shane and Joe on.
Yeah, what's going on, guys? Good afternoon. Well, it's still morning over here. We got a few more minutes, but all right. So drop us some questions. I will get out a shameless plug for happy birthday to all the Marines out there.
There you go.
Especially we got Veterans Day coming up tomorrow. We're actually going to have somebody from Mission 22 Fishing. They got a fishing tournament on Neely this weekend for a fundraiser thing they're doing, getting veterans out. So they're going to be in tomorrow, and we're going to do a quick live and just kind of talk about what they got going on. So. Sweet. All right. Without further ado, wait. Let me read John Cox's before I pull it up there. John, speaking of Marines, happy birthday. My 4 graphs work good. Would it benefit to add a tandem cranking battery in line? I see where some are doing it.
Well, I would.
He's running a lot of juice.
That's kind of a loaded question. I would say it would be beneficial, I suppose, but you have to do it in a certain way. You don't want to run them parallel all the time because it's going to be really, really hard on your charging system. Even if you had an alternator, it would still be hard on that. So Mercury doesn't recommend running series batteries, and Yamaha doesn't recommend running series batteries. Now, the older charging system, like on HPDI, had the ability to run 2 batteries. It had 2 charging. Had a rectifier that had 2 sides that would charge 2 different batteries, and you just had to run a ground to marry the 2 in the boat, and then you have to run another harness. But unfortunately, the Yamaha SHO, they tried to cut the weight, so they did away with some of the little luxuries that you could do with HPDI just to lighten that motor up a little bit. So the way you would have to do it at this point would you'd have to put an isolator on the 2 batteries. That way, the charging system, it would only charge the battery that was the lowest, bring it up, and then you start bringing the other one up while you're running.
So would it be worth, if you're going to do 2 batteries, to leave your dedicated lead acid cranking battery and then maybe look at, obviously I'm a bit of a fan of lithium, but like a deep cycle
small lithium or something?
Yeah, like a lithium to run your electronics?
Yeah, as long as it's just graphs. You can't put like the key switch stuff on there. So if you separate the key switch from the motor,
right,
you'll have all kinds of weird things going on with your engine. It does not like that at all. But yeah, you could run your graphs off of it as long as they're not tied to like any engine data.
Gotcha.
Sometimes they'll run the NEMA system to the engine.
Okay.
If you're running on 2 different batteries, it may have a conflict. But as far as just running 2 Solixes or 4 Solixes on dedicated power straight to that battery, as long as it held up all day, you just have to keep in mind when you're running, it's not charging that battery.
Yep.
But yeah, you could do that.
Well, that's where some of the new, I mean, like PowerPulse charger, where you can actually get into the app and change where the juice is flowing and all that kind of stuff. I think it's definitely an interesting conversation as more and more guys put more and more big graphs. And now you're going to have, 15 and 16-inch graphs are going to become commonplace.
And if you're running a lithium cranking battery, you have to run a PowerPulse charger now, because those batteries have their own little computers in them, and they have a tendency of overcharging, and the motor can't put that charge back to ground like it's supposed to, and it'll show about 16.5 volts, and the Yamaha computer, even if it's not a lot of amps, the computer doesn't like that on the engine. It'll shut your engine down just like that.
All right.
To protect it. So if anybody's running lithiums out there and their engine's shutting down, and they're running a precision charger, even if they got it on AGM, it's because of your lithium cranking battery.
Okay. So I see some other good questions. I'm going to throw this in because this was from last week in one of the groups that somebody asked, what's up with smoking on startup on the 200 and 250 Pro XSs, the new Mercury?
Typically, when I see smoking at startup, it's probably guys that when they're running, they trim that motor down so they don't porpoise coming off a plane. They go in there, go in a hole and fish for 30 minutes or an hour, and then crank it back up and take off. Okay. So what happens when you run an engine and it's hot and you got the engine trimmed all the way down, the cylinders are aimed back. Okay. And what it does is it's all that oil that was draining down from the top, because it's circulating that stuff everywhere.
Okay.
Sits on the back side of the piston.
Oh.
If you got it tucked all the way under, it sits, on the rings, and that oil's hot. And if it's just sitting there, it's going to slowly drip out, because none of that stuff is perfectly sealed on the cylinder side.
Okay.
But whenever you're running, they're always spinning, so it stays sealed when you're running.
All right.
But when it's sitting tucked under, it's going to leak a little bit of oil out, and if you crank it up, it's going to smoke. So the way to prevent that is, once you get off a plane, go ahead and trim that engine up, maybe halfway, to get it in positive trim, and all that oil will drain into the oil sump instead of into your cylinders.
Okay.
So that should take care of it.
All right. Michael Gladden. Good morning, guys. I was there last Tuesday and spent $300 in the loft and got in trouble with the wife.
Why you use cash?
See, Tech Tuesdays, even good for marriage
for your
advice.
Home life. Yeah.
That's got to be a whole different show.
Mm-hmm.
Although I will say, I always joke, I never knew getting into selling boats that I would end up being a marriage counselor. The number of husband and wives coming in to buy boats, it can get interesting for sure. All right. So engine choices, Suzuki versus Yamaha, pros and cons.
Well, I'm going to say Yamaha all the way. Suzuki's, they run great. They're usually a little underpowered. They don't have very many performance features, number one.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't say anything bad about the company. I mean, the ones that I've dealt with seem to be pretty decent, but overall, I think Yamaha has a little bit better warranty program.
Mm-hmm.
And I've, the only thing I can tell you is what I've been told, because we've never carried Suzuki as a brand.
Right.
We've thought about picking them up here and there just for pontoons, but it seems like the guys, when we go to school,
mm-hmm.
I always ask what they carry and how they like them, and I've had several guys that carry Suzuki, and they've told me, and I, like I said, I'm going to tell you what I've been told. They told me sometimes that when you're doing warranty claims, it's a little bit harder to get stuff covered.
Gotcha.
I don't know if that's true for sure, because I've never been through that experience myself. But the guys at school, they praise one motor company and they hate another one. So, and they may have a bad experience with them themselves or something. So, but I do know that Yamaha is super easy to deal with.
Yep.
Their warranty program is excellent. We don't have any issues with them overall, and they seem to, get stuff to us pretty quick. So,
So I'll add on just, I guess, from a sales discussion of that. I know we've got a YouTube video. We actually sat down. It was 3 pros, Suzuki versus Evinrude versus Mercury, all running. It was all Falcon pros, and they kind of talk through it. And on that video, I mean, the last couple of years, we've gotten a lot of comments from guys saying, "Hey, I've got 3,000 hours on my Suzuki." A lot of it's, commercial application guys that are running the coast, which of course it's equally, as common to see big times on your Yamahas and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, we'd prefer to sell you a Yamaha because we can't sell you a Suzuki. But the other thing, the dealer support that you get. So, obviously the warranty discussion is important, but also where do you live? What kind of dealer are you going to find yourself working with? Even if there is good warranty support, I would tell you, if the dealership that is freaking awesome and can take care of you, they're selling Suzukis, it's worth the discussion to see. That being said, it's pretty easy to find Yamaha guys out there, depending on where you're traveling and all that kind of stuff.
And the network of dealers too. So if you're a guy that does tournaments and you're going different places, you got to find the big places that carry that can take care of you while you're there.
Sorry, that may not have been as technically helpful, I guess, maybe.
You'll have to pick the pros and cons out of that.
Yeah. But I mean, it's all right. Let's see here. Is it possible to damage your prop hub when you damage a prop by hitting a rock? I use the hub in new prop, and when I get on it and RPM hits 3,500, sounds like it overspins for a second and then catches back up. Does it make any sense? 2019 Yamaha show.
Okay, so I'm assuming that you're running either an older FXP that has a hub, like has a plastic hub, or maybe a Mercury prop.
Well, it's a 2019.
Well, he said he put a hub out of another prop. I guess the question is it have a plastic hub, or did you send the prop off and get a new hub pressed in a rubber hub? So, with that being said, I guess I can say that if you got a rubber hub pressed back in and you send it off somewhere to get it rehubbed, did they put a factory hub in it, or did they put an aftermarket hub in? I've seen some of the aftermarket hubs not work well with the Yamaha props. So
okay,
if it's a plastic hub, you may have something else going on. It may be a thrust washer issue. It could be some of those plastic hubs have another insert that has to go in them as well.
Okay.
If you don't have the correct, they call it a cover, where the trim tab goes, it has a little fin on it. Well, the SHOs don't.
Okay.
They've got a coolant passage in there. And if that coolant passage isn't doing its job, it can spin hubs real easy too. So.
Okay. Well, hopefully that helps in some way. Shane came in third on Lay Lake and had about 4 people ask where we got the Avid. www.bucksisland.com. There's my shameless plug.
There you go.
Congrats.
Definitely.
Let's see, I bought a new Deca battery, and it's not lasting long. I have 3 units, but can only run 1 at a time. Battery only lasting about 3 hours. It's a Group 31. I'm not familiar with Deca.
We used to sell Deca a long
time
ago. We stopped for whatever reason. I don't know why, but I guess question would be: is it an AGM battery, or is it just a regular Group 31 cranking battery? So, and it depends on the units. If you got Solexes, you might want to go to an AGM battery. If you go to an AGM battery, we've had a few issues with some of them that, they seem not to be working great, and we'd send them back to the factory or to the place to get tested, and they don't seem to be bad when they send them back to us. But I don't know. Batteries are kind of a fickle creature right now in my world. But I would definitely suggest a Group 31 that you already have. I would suggest maybe get an AGM. But if you get AGM, you have to charge it with AGM charger. Now, you may have gotten a deck of AGM 31 series battery and you're charging it with a conventional charger, and it will kill that battery if you use a conventional charger. So you got to make sure you got the right charger for the right battery. And if you don't, you may want to look at that because it will make a difference on how the battery reacts. So.
Brian, hello. Thanks for joining us.
Mom, that's Mom. She made it. She didn't think she was going to be able to. She wanted us to move Tech Tuesday to Wednesday.
Oh.
I told her I might not be able to do that.
Tech Tuesday on Wednesday, or would we call it Tech Wednesday?
No, we call it Tech Tuesday on Wednesday because we've done it before. We had to do it once.
Yeah. Well, hey, we'll do whatever you need. Okay.
As long as we'll do whatever you want, as long as it's not us moving to Wednesday.
or Friday.
Yeah.
All right. Man. All right, let's roll in here. What is the recommendation as an hours between for oil change on the Mercury 4-stroke? Also, is it best to check the oil levels on a cold or warm engine?
Okay.
On the new 4-stroke.
I'm going to start with the recommended oil change. I would say that every 100 hours is the recommended, or once a year, whichever comes first. Now, with that being said, people that run these motors real hard all the time, let's say you're at 6,000. I mean, if you're going, you're in it all the way. You may want to lower that number a little bit.
Okay.
Like if you're 6,000, 6,200 RPM all the time, I would say maybe every 75 hours.
Okay.
So, but definitely once a year. Okay. Warm or cold? Cold probably would be your best bet because once you crank that motor up, and that oil can sit in those heads and in the cylinders for 30 minutes, and so you might be there a while waiting to get an accurate reading. So the biggest thing is when you pull that dipstick out, wipe it off and put it back in there, and then pull it out because they have tubes running down in there. So if you just pull it out, it's not going to give you an accurate reading at all.
So if you're looking at it cold, does it matter if you got the motor tilt, full tilt up?
Well,
should you?
Well, no, you want it level. Like a cross.
I can just see if you're trying to do it cold, I can see a lot of guys walking out before they ever, start cranking up. You're sitting at the boat ramp and you got the motor all the way up.
Yeah,
you just trailered it. And
it's not going to work for you. But the biggest thing is if you kept your motor trimmed all the way down, tucked under, wherever you were, and you wanted to check it, I would suggest tilting it up a little while because oil gets trapped in the heads.
Okay.
And so that would give it a chance to drain some of the oil down. And then you can trim it back down, make it level, and then check it. So the good news is he's got a hatch on top.
Yeah.
So you can get to them for the big motors anyway.
All right.
The small motors are a little bit more difficult.
What is the very best battery brand to use in bass boats, in your opinion? I think we've.
Honestly, for the cranking batteries, I've been using Crown batteries.
Mm-hmm.
That's our alternative. Like we have interstate AGMs, and then we have the Crown AGMs, and it seems like I've seen less issues out of the Crown, but they're kind of coming from the same places. A lot of them are coming from Mexico, so it's hard to tell. You just have to experiment. I know that's can be an expensive experiment, but the Crown batteries have been working for us pretty good. We seem to have a lot more issues with the interstate cranking. The trolling batteries seem to be fine.
Okay. So. All right. So this is back to that hub.
Mercury prop. Okay.
Mercury prop and a plastic hub.
Okay. So what I would suggest for you is a lot of times when you get a new hub, it's kind of hollow on the backside. They make this, it's almost a pyramid shaped thing that goes in the back. Okay. And sometimes they don't come with the hub kit, so you have to buy them separate. So
Right.
you need to make sure that piece is in there because it stabilizes that hub. Okay, and if you don't have that in there, you're more likely going to spin another hub.
All right.
But with that being said, okay, we have a high performance steel, or not steel, stainless steel, I think, but a solid hub that we sell. We have them in stock, and they slide in there in replacement of that hub, and they work well.
Okay.
For somebody having that issue, they won't spin out.
All right. Lee Sutton said, I put less than 30 hours on my motor this year. Do I require service?
I guess it depends on how. If it's a brand new boat and you got 30 hours, I would say definitely, because you want 20 to 30 hours to do your first service. I would say that if you've had this boat for a while and you started fishing 6 months ago, then in 6 months you need to have that oil change. So
Okay.
if you're done for the year, I would just wait till springtime and get the oil change so you're ready to go on the water. And it's a fresh oil change right out of the get-go.
All right. So
One
what's
year-
your recommendation? At least once a year?
Once a year.
For most?
If you put 10 hours on it, I would get that oil change after a year because the oil degrades.
Right.
It's getting oxygen, it's oxidizing. We've had oil we've opened up and poured a little bit out to dress a block with when we're doing a block, and
Right.
it sits there a year and it starts congealing.
Yeah.
I pour it out and I have to throw it away because it's
So-
I can't use it in the engine.
So it's relatively cheap insurance.
That's great insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it may not seem cheap at the time, but when compare the cost of a new motor,
Yeah.
or a new power head, or any other maintenance, oil change is pretty cheap. All right, my alternator is charging. I don't have anything pulling the battery down. So do I need to add another battery?
I don't know if I'd add another battery. I would just find out the health of your battery. It
could be an issue with the wiring too. If he's got 3 units in terms of the gauge wire and all that kind of stuff that he's using,
It could be. If you run a big graphs, you need to run
helix units.
Okay, so say they're 12s, you need to run dedicated power anyway. But I would say that more than likely it's not just because you have smaller wires, it's not going to use more of your amps up. What tends to happen is when you crank up, it cuts your units off.
Okay.
So dedicated power will stop that straight to your battery. But if you take your battery out and take it to, if it's interstate, you can take it to interstate. You can probably take it to the O'Reilly's or Advanced Auto, and they can put a machine on there and then tell you if your battery's got good health or not. The biggest thing is the reserve capacity or the amp hours. Okay, so a battery's only going to have so many amp hours, and if it's got 50 amp hours, and you're out there, several hours of the day, it's gonna drain, and you're not gonna have any left. But if you got like 100 amp hours and you only use 30 of them in 3 hours, and you got 70 left, so you got plenty to work with. So that's kind of where you have to look.
Okay. Yeah, I would. The John Cox that asked the question earlier, I know. I mean, his boat, he's running what? 3 Solixes, right? And a Garmin and Panoptics on one. We got what, AGM in his.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I put Crown on his. I may have put I don't know for sure.
But for sure, there's something weird if you're only getting 3 hours out of 3 helixes.
Yeah. And I'm sure you probably run live wells and stuff too. So keep in mind if you got a live well pump or something that could be going bad, it can pull a lot more amps and drain the battery quick too. So.
All right. Nathan, sup? So Lee Sutton is asking about the 30 hours on the 250 show. So yeah, I think that would at least once a year especially those big motors cost a bunch. So cheap insurance. can adjust the hot foot to go down more, or is it set up right from Avid?
Well, it's set up to. We always check the throw.
Yeah.
Of it.
Do the Avids come in with the adjustable, or okay?
They
So
come
it's
in.
hard mounted.
They come in bolted down, which I don't. I'm actually going to try to get in touch with them about that because I'd rather have it not bolted down in case you got a longer leg guy or shorter leg guy without having to move stuff. But when we rig them, we double check, and the shows don't have a lot of travel. So if you want to go down further, all it's going to do is go further. It's not going to do anything in between. There's a little arrow and a little line, and once it hits that line, you can go. You can squish that thing down as far as you want. It's just not going to do anything more. But if it's a comfort thing, then you can take the stop and run it down as far as you want. It's just not going to go any further, any faster. So, and doing that's not a problem.
Okay.
I've never seen an issue with somebody running it down further.
And
for comfort.
Shane, you've been real good at staying in communication with us. Avid, new brand. Always happy to have some feedback from you on the good, bads, and others with that kind of stuff. Because, like Israel said, we're definitely working and so far been impressed with Avid's at least taken in the communication and hey, here's some things maybe that we could tweak and make a little bit better. So.
They got plenty of foam in the boat, so that's great. The
double-edged sword of a new brand. It's exciting, but some of those little things you still got to work out.
Tweaks.
So, yes, tweaks. Nathan, yes, you did miss the discussion on the Smoking Mercury. So sorry, you'll have to go back and watch it after we get done. Many of the onboard marine battery chargers have battery leads that are 6 feet or less. Is it okay to extend?
Yeah, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. We have to. Sometimes, for whatever reason, when they put one in a skeeter, they run it up front, and it comes factory from Minn Kota with this really long cord. But when we get a replacement one, it's like this long. And it's like, okay, what am I going to do? So we have to extend it. You just have to, I'd be real careful with it and do it, in a way that's going to last and not cause you any injury in the future. Because if that does come undone and it's plugged up and you have say any aluminum or metal around and it touches it and touches you, bad things can happen. So,
all right.
Consult a professional, I guess I should say.
Wait a second. I thought that's what they were doing.
No, when you do it.
Okay. Got you.
Yeah. It's not something you can do. You might want to have somebody else do it that knows what they're doing.
All right, Shane. We'll hit you up. Get the feedback. All right. I think we've been going long enough, and it's about lunchtime. Let me just review. I think I got a few questions that you know what? I'm just going to hold them. Because I think today was battery charger theme.
That's it. Hey, you gotta have those days.
Yeah, it's,
Mama said there'd be days like this.
Yeah, there'd be days like this.
Mama said.
So we'll see. I think it's an interesting. Definitely more and bigger graphs, particularly the bass boats. It occurs to me that some of the saltwater guys are running a lot of electronics. Maybe worth taking a look at exactly how they're setting them up. Of course, they got a lot more room to work with. Did we ship out all the prizes? Shane, no, we still are working on a few, including we got to get your cooler in the mail and a couple other things. So doing the best we can.
If you're in a big hurry, you can always come down here and grab it. We don't mind.
All right. Well, guys, thank you all so much for hanging out with us. Some good questions. Appreciate it. Appreciate the feedback. And hopefully it helps some of you. Definitely if you're still with us or watching this later on, why don't you give us a share and let folks know that we're doing this. It's a lot of fun for us. Happy Veterans Day. I appreciate it. Well, thank you. You are quite welcome. Like I said, tomorrow we'll be talking about the Mission 22. I'm a big fan of all the, you see a lot of the push-up posts and all that kind of stuff to bring awareness. You got veterans, 22 a day is the rate that they've calculated for veteran suicides, and it's definitely something that needs to be talked about. Yeah. Yeah, you guys are welcome, and I think that is it. That's gonna do it. You got anything else?
That's it.
You good? Let's get back to work or go eat or whatever it is.
We'll get some work in.
All right.
Yeah.
See you.